We're live.
We're live on the YouTubes.
The tube of the U. YouTube live, first time.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Yes. Welcome. Remember, if you like what you see now, like, share, subscribe, respond, interact, tell us your stories
Yeah.
for sure.
So previous to this live, what we've done is uploaded our audio and just kind of put it with pictures. But I mean, really, it is just a conversation. So.
And we also, if there is anyone out there who's an expert on this, let us know what we can do to improve the show for sure.
Yeah. We are actually live.
Okay. So news.
Weird news of the week.
All right. I'm going to kick it off.
Do it.
Okay. So Sabrina Saarbrück.
What?
This comes from Sputnik News.
Sputnik. Always a good time at Sputnik News.
Yeah, she's an Argentinian
Argentinian.
adult film star and TV personality who has undergone
It's gone over between
50 surgeries
50.
in a quest to have the biggest bum in the world.
No. Stop doing
But that's not even the story. But I just want 50 surgeries focused on the bum. So layers and layers of saline. She's going to get to where when she sits down, she's just going to kind of squat a little bit and she'll be safe.
So how do you sleep at night? Sitting is one thing, but how do you?
Oh, I'm sure she sleeps at night with plenty of blood rushed into her head.
Yeah, because your.
Or she lays on her back.
Yeah.
Or I mean on her belly. She can't lay on her back because
It's like
all the blood would be in her head and her toes, and then her hips would get cold because it's elevated. Or maybe she has a special bed. So mattress, empty space, mattress.
They make them now.
That's not even the story.
Hey, that is a new field of warehouse and merchandising you can get into.
Yeah.
Creating the giant butt bed.
Yeah, Nicki Minaj and
the Kardashians.
Yeah, that Kardashian.
They go fake nasty.
I don't think they look good when they have.
No.
That's just me, and like chicken legs. It looks like you're wearing an oversized fanny pack. But that's just me. Some people might like that.
Some people dig it. I think it's a type of body dysmorphia.
But that's not even the story.
Oh, okay. Get to the story.
Okay, biggest bum in the world says her ancestors suffered from an extraterrestrial intervention in the remote past.
Same lady?
Well,
it's the big bum lady?
Yes. Well, okay.
So her ancestors had an extraterrestrial intervention?
I'm going to read a quote.
I don't understand.
And here's the thing. Remember that Tila Tequila lady?
Yeah.
How she was real popular for like 3 years.
Uh-huh.
And then once that waned, I think because she burned that fuse too hot, I think she could have had that popularity last longer. But when she did that MTV show where she was trying to find a mate, but it was, whatever, she burned that fuse too fast, then burned out, and then kind of went crazy after. I think subconsciously that's a cry for attention. Is my opinion. And I think this lady's 43. So I think that's she was popular in the porn star field, and I listened to a show the other day that it was a show that was talking. It wasn't a porn show. It was actually just a kind of a comedy show. They were talking about different. It was on Joe Rogan. They were talking about what different pornos are popular where, and I guess in Great Britain, like the grandma stuff is super popular because
aging.
Those formidable years, you have more matriarchal figures in your life,
Hmm.
And so it's real popular then. It was Joe Rogan podcast that just came out. But, which, you know,
So
I guess,
what does that say about like porn in South Africa? Think it's bestiality or
I don't know.
because you're around more
Well,
animals?
I don't know. It
That's a
definitely
weird-
would tie into
That's
culture.
That's a weird study.
It would definitely tie into culture. Definitely. Um, you know, like ours would, because of where we are here in Utah, would definitely be like oatmeal wholesome eating stuff or something. I don't know.
Yes. This is where the feeders come from.
I don't know.
That level of porn is definitely this is the epicenter.
That or I don't know. But anyways, that's
Anyway.
not what I wanted to get
Okay.
in. But I think
Back to the story.
this is her grabbing for. But whatever. I'm gonna read a quote. I worked with researchers who told me that my blood type is not from this planet.
Okay, I've read that before. Mine's not from this planet either. It's RH negative.
So your blood type is Rh negative.
Mhm.
There are even theories that aliens carried out experiments with humans mixing DNA and things like this.
But not theories, hypotheses.
See, I'm A negative. You know, but
Yeah.
I don't know if that's normal. Anyways, so Rh blood refers to the type of red blood cells that do not have a protein called rhesus factor. They don't have the rhesus factor on their surface. I know nothing about blood. What happens if, like, you have, what's the blood type that's most sought after? No,
Maybe it's O
I think it's O.
positive or something.
Yeah, it's the most sought after because it's the rarest and it can mix with other bloods or something. I don't understand how bloods are different.
Yeah, and I don't understand it. So there's a lot of conspiracy theories about RH negative.
Yeah. Anyways, you know, so not only is this lady working to make her gluteus maximus as Maximus gives, but she's alien.
Alien.
Yeah. Rh positive individuals can be given transfusions of both blood types, but negative people can only take negative blood. And so, what's this theory on Rh blood being alien? Because it says here, scientists believe that Rh negative blood is the result of mutation that happened during our evolution.
Yeah, so it's a mutation that can't be explained. So some conspiracy theorists have said, well, simply because it can't be explained,
It came from the monkeys?
it's from aliens.
No, okay, so it came from the aliens.
Yes.
Now, I'm wondering, does these different blood types appear in other mammalians?
I don't know.
See, that's where, we've talked before about how some people theorize that aliens bred with monkeys to make us.
Uh-huh.
But
So
even if not these same blood types, but multiple variations appear in other mammalians, then I think that would argue against that theory.
but how does this explain her desire to have the world's largest butt?
Oh, I think that's just a porn star thing.
Hmm.
Her childhood obviously wasn't as safe and secure as it could have been. Maybe it was. Maybe that's just her thing.
It's interesting. I have read lots of the studies on Rh negative factor. Just I think that it's something people cling on to because it's still very unknown. The way that we know the things that it doesn't do. Like for instance, it's 100% incompatible with Rh negative. So say the father has type A, the mother has type A, but also carries the Rh negative factor. Oftentimes, in utero, her blood will attack the blood of the fetus and actually decimate it.
So if any listeners out there are still following along, because I glazed over. Um,
So we understand what it doesn't do. It's not compatible with all blood types. It doesn't sustain life if there's a negative factor being introduced, where other blood types have a tendency
Isn't
to kind
there
of level out.
a shot they give
Yeah,
mothers.
it's Rogam, which is extremely painful. You have to have it following every child that you have if you carry the Rh negative factor
So you had to have it off every time.
So, as did mom.
Is mom Rh negative?
It's passed. It's a trait that's passed down, but they don't understand where it comes from because it's a distinct mutation. Like if a family grew a horn and then every daughter passed down had a horn. So it's a weird thing, but I think it's more weird because it's not understood. And I think that science, we are making. I have to tell you, I'm totally geeking out on quantum computing. And I think that if someone who is even geekier than me could step forward and enter into the quantum computer, the correct equation and algorithm that would get us to this answer. We could know it in about 2.5 seconds. That's how fast it is. And we've been studying Rh negativity since, I don't know, the dawn of civilization. So.
When was blood types discovered?
I'm not sure exactly when they were discovered, but I do know that during about the same time as penicillin was introduced, we started to not understand how to type blood and which specific groupings to put it in. But we started to understand the rejection of blood that wasn't the same as ours. And it went 100 different ways. In its earliest infancy stages of research, they thought it was because of the color of your skin or the color of your eyes or arbitrary
that stuff was
expression. So I'm not quite sure when it was or who it's attributed to, but since then, since we were able to identify the different parts of blood, the white blood cells and things of that nature, the building blocks, the Rh negative is missing a particular piece. And they think it's a mutation. They just don't know where it goes back to.
Huh. So, wow. So my sister and mother are aliens.
Yes.
Folks, that's news.
That's why I want so bad to be visited, because I think I am one. Not really. But
I'm home.
I'm home.
Touching the walls of the flying saucer. It feels so familiar.
Okay, my story.
Me, the whole time, I'm just clenched. I'm just like beads of sweat pouring down my head. I'm clenched for hours on end.
So, my story, May 3rd, posted May 3rd in People, on people.com. Lily Collins.
No, she's the actress, right?
Yes.
That's on the new Ted Bundy show on Netflix.
Yeah, coming right back to that.
The wicked, evil, horrible something.
It's extremely wicked, shockingly evil, and vile. Listen, just put a bunch of adjectives together.
Well, all negative. Well, okay, now I did mention that the new voice of Sword and Scale is a lady from Utah that Ted Bundy almost or tried to. Her story is that he tried to nap her when she was younger in the Fashion Place Mall. So for the local listeners, we do know that Ted Bundy was here.
Yeah. Well, he picked up a gal from Liberty Park.
Yep, and he escaped custody in Colorado.
They pulled him over.
Well, he escaped twice in Colorado, and he also escaped in Florida and came back here when he escaped. He was
A turd.
Well, yeah, but
Ted Bundy, you
but
were a
he was a
turd.
guy that took opportunities to escape when he had them. Just small windows. They
Yeah.
couldn't leave him any little window. I mean,
I think he was so prolific in his killing and the terrible things that he did because he made knee-jerk, split-second decisions about everything, including opportunities to escape that no people would have planned. I mean, for months and months in advance, he took advantage of little tiny windows
Yeah.
of opportunity.
well, in
And that was-
Colorado,
Yeah, that's how he
in
got away with
Colorado,
it for
in
so
his
long.
cell, he was his own lawyer, so they'd have him in a library in there. And the guard said he would always be doing squats and leg workouts in his cell, and then jumping off the top bunk and landing. And he thought he was just exercising, staying motivated. And he had a personality that was affable.
Sure.
Everyone says he was an affable guy. You couldn't help but
He was the perfect storm, people.
the perfect serial killer.
Yeah.
But anyways, so what he did, he was on the second story. The library's in the second story, and the guard's outside the door, but they didn't go in there. He was being his own lawyer, and so they kind of left him alone. He jumped out the second story window, landed and ran.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's shocking when you think about. Almost like he said, I want to be my own lawyer so he'd have access to that library,
Yeah.
so he'd have access to escape.
Like perhaps he had, initially not made a decision, but then after surveilling his surroundings, said, I've decided I want to be my own lawyer because knowing he would have access to that library.
When he was on the run, he was on the run for, I think, a week and a half or 2 weeks. He lost like 10 pounds because he didn't have access to food and he was out shivering in the cold. So his calorie use is up, food use is down. He come back all gaunt with a beard.
It's nuts. It's
Yeah,
nuts.
he would be a study into weirdness or into
But
the range.
the problem is he's so hard to pin down because you don't know if what he's giving you is actual information because he's so devious in his nature that I could see someone like him leading you on a wild goose chase just to do it,
Yeah,
just for mere sport.
yeah.
So, I mean, the most famous criminologists have inferred that although we can glean a lot from them, it's very difficult to trust what you glean because it's not, I mean, there's no way for us to know.
Yeah.
He even passed lie detector tests, so it's not like you could hook him
Well,
up. Because-
Sociopaths commonly pass lie detector
Yes.
tests.
Yeah, so given his specific set of skills and his specific set of characteristics, interviewing him, although interesting, would likely give you nothing but this in the end,
Yeah, it's
depending on what his motives were.
oh,
So, back to my story. Lily Collins, this actress, believes she was visited by the ghosts of Ted Bundy's victims.
ooh.
So,
What were the victims? Were they like, don't make this show, don't glamorize him, or would they like tell our story?
so here's what she'd say. I would go downstairs and have a cup of tea trying to figure out why I had woken up again. I started being woken up by flashes of images, like the aftermath of a struggle. Curious about what she was experiencing, Collins said she turned to research to try and understand what was happening. She said she discovered at 3 a.m. is the time when the veil between the realms, yes, is the thinnest, and she would wake up at 3:05. So during this particular time, the witching hours, Jared describes it, she says she was being
Or
visited.
witching 5 minutes.
She says she didn't feel scared. She felt supported. Like people were saying, we're here listening, we're here to support. Thank you for telling the story.
Well, I'm glad that that Netflix is telling this story as an evil story, but I think I don't think a movie needs to be made about his life where you throw some sympathy at him, but I think a study needs to be done. We need to find out what is causing these crazy people, or even the people that are like nowadays going and shooting up a religious building or whatever. We need to find out what's causing that and how to
Yeah.
alleviate that.
And we need to see it as a whole. So I understand why they talk about his life as best they know it, because as we spoke to earlier, ordinary people who look very benign, who have no outward appearance of deviancy, could be doing horrible, terrible things. And perhaps in the nuances of their day to day life or the way they respond to specific actions or their reactions, we may glean something from that.
Mm.
So seeing, I understand that it plays into giving him some level of empathy or sympathy, but he's not just a serial killer. He's a sum of all of his parts, and we need to examine each of those parts. So I get that, and I think that it would be difficult to play in a movie as Miss Collins has, because any good um, actor or actress that really wants to play in like a biography or autobiography type of role has to understand um, who they're playing. And so part of that understanding, she actually met some of these victims.
Oh,
And in meeting the victims, you give it another level of intimacy, of closeness to that particular crime, because you spend some time with the person who it happened to, and or whose loved one it happened to. And so that would lend way to some
well,
weird happenings at night, I'm sure.
to make a movie about them, I think it'd be great, or especially, but I don't think they want to be pushed. I wouldn't want to be pushed in the spotlight for going through that stuff.
Well, I think it's twofold. In order to heal, you really do have to kind of face it, lean into it. But in order to heal, you got to be able to leave it behind. And if you've done the
If
first
that's
part,
going to be your life's work,
yeah,
being a victim of,
yeah, like you have to, in order to be whole, you have to leave that, and not just figuratively pretend it didn't happen, but you have to be able to come to terms with it. And part of that is to just move on from anything. I don't care what it is. I stubbed my toe last week. I had to move on, people. It hurt like hell, but I had to move on. And that's, for some of us, we get stuck in this loop, this kind of loop of whatever it is you're going through. And I think that being flung back into the spotlight, if you've climbed off that hamster wheel 10 years, 15 years ago, maybe when he died, your wheel stopped spinning, and now they want to do a movie about the victims. Boy, I would think twice. I would think twice, because you do have to relive it again. One, they're going to want to see it cinematically, and two, you have to just retell that story that you walked away from. So I get it, but she dove into this part, and now she's saying she's being visited. It's not a bad thing.
what's
She's
the
having
handsome guy playing him? What's his name?
Oh, geez, Zac
Yeah.
Efron. Yeah.
I wonder how he feels about playing him. Has he done any?
I'm sure his experience is so different. It's so different in the sense that it would be disturbing to have to behave that way. Um, yeah, yeah. I think it's great work. I'm glad someone's doing it. It's times like these where I go, yeah, I don't think I'd ever want to be in something like that. I don't want to be a part of something like that. It's too deep. It's too carnal. It's too, yeah. No loves.
Take me back to Arnold.
Yes. Anyway, weird news.
Yeah, that's That's
Good.
intense.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's a lot to think about. There was quite a bit of news this week. I saw, I end up finding myself on, I think a lot of parody sites, but the NASA wants to probe deeper into Uranus than
Oh.
ever before. A skunk ape one, they think a skunk ape's terrorizing the Everglades in Florida.
There was
So
a-
that hits two things that is near and dear to our hearts,
Yes,
Florida and the Sasquatch.
yes, Florida. Just
Um,
what Florida needs. A terrorizing Sasquatch.
Scientologists or
Yeah.
have a cruise ship that's in the Caribbean quarantined for measles or something. Those are a lot of them, but I want to find humor. But anyway, so right now we're going on to the story.
The meat. Today's subject is Break it
Something
down.
that I am not even smart enough to say the words to you, but I'm doing it anyway.
all right.
Now, I know everyone's familiar with video games by now. And in those video games, you have what's called NPCs, non-player characters.
Non-player characters. Okay. Why?
Well,
In the video games, they're just like kind of milling about,
They're-
like in Sims or whatever.
yeah, or in a non-player character, it would be in a shooting game, the bad guys that you shoot.
Okay. All right.
So what it is kind of a rule set is drawn up for them in code that they occupy that coded space, right?
Got it.
And they live within that code. They're an existing thing in that game that acts upon rules that are written for them by the people who design them.
Who designed the game?
You know, if you shoot at them, if you talk to them, if you approach them, they do this, that, or the other. I play a little bit of video games. They're everywhere. So you got non-player characters.
Okay.
Now, what if those non-player characters' codes or rule set were advanced to where those non-player characters did higher level functions? Maybe had some free will. Maybe, now granted, we don't have computers that can cope with all of that now, but maybe one day we will.
What we do.
No, we
It's
don't.
happening.
We don't yet.
Quantum computing is
Well,
happening.
quantum computing may be a gateway to that. And we'll talk about the
I'm not
theoretical
educated
computer,
enough yet, but
coming
I'm
up
super
soon.
stoked about it. Okay.
but it's the simulation hypothesis.
Okay, so break it down. The simulation hypothesis is
What if, okay, what if we were a tool in a history class? Or
like right now,
a part of a larger video game, right now?
like as we sit here and speak,
What if
we are
we existed on a computer?
as bits of information. Like we're created as non-player characters.
Okay, let's say,
What am I? Just lay it out.
well, let's say that there's a history class in a far more advanced human race, or maybe even a different species,
Okay.
that wants to study what life could be through the ages. So they write up these rule sets that give computer code free will. And we're non-player characters acting out that free will for a history class. That's just one theory of it. What if we're a part of a video game that Gleek Lords are playing?
Is Gleek Lurk controlling my bad decisions?
No, we're non-player characters. They don't control our decisions. They
They just-
interact with us as non-player characters would be interacted with in any video game.
So Gleek Lurk could be you.
Could be controlling me interacting with you, or your neighbor interacting with you, or your husband interacting with you, or your
Or the
child,
government interacting
or
with
the
us.
government, or that we might be we might
What
be
if
a
the Pope is Gleek Lurk?
we might be an online video game.
and people bounce in and,
Where like Bleak plays one person who interacts with the world, and Bleak plays a different person, and we're non-player characters. Or we're just a movie for the entertainment or whatever. Or we're just a test to see if it can be done. Or we're a sadist playing God. Or just anything. We're a computer program.
that's really hard to wrap my brain around.
You think?
Because then you, but then they would be controlling everything we visually see and audibly hear, and
They
it
would
would all be a part of the
build-
simulation.
They would build what we see in
like
here,
the Truman Show.
but bigger. But so they would build the world we live in, and then we play that out. So they don't necessarily have
What if it's
to.
like the ant farm and they're just watching and we're just like,
That falls into the
So-
same thing.
that falls into the
Well,
simulation?
it could be. Simulation theories, if we're existing in code on a computer or on a whatever.
So. There's so many ways that could go. Whose idea was this?
Okay, all right. I just had his name on the tip of my tongue.
He just,
Okay,
out of the blue, smoked some LSD and came up with this, or what?
Nick Bostrom.
Nick Bostrom,
Okay,
coming at you, Nick. I'm gonna look you up.
so it's just a skeptical hypothesis. Some call it butterfly, or another word I can't pronounce in the or the Indian philosophy of Maya. But I'm sure it's been mentioned at times, but Nick Bostrom is the guy who kind of, I think he when he first mentioned it, if I remember, it was first mentioned during a show where he talked about it, just kind of a what if, during an event like a TED Talk. And he's done a few TED Talks on it. And I'm not going to read too much into that because there's a lot of numbers that I am not even, once you have 3 commas in there, past that, I'm like, I don't even know what that number is anymore. Those are numbers too vast for the average human mind to even comprehend. But I just want to talk about it as I picture it,
So what would the point be
whatever they want.
of simulation? Entertainment, education, experimentation, research, all of it at once?
It could be an advanced civilization wanting to see how history would play out, why certain things happen.
Giving us the free will to make stupid decisions as we see
So that
fit.
means the history we're living in now. Like, what if it could go multi-dimensions too? What if they've got a computing enough to where they could run them and say we're in a neutral, and then there's a good, and then there's a chaotic, and then there's an evil, and then there's a prosperous. And that's if you want to go worldwide, but what if there's this test to just see one person? What if you're the main focus of the program, that all your trials in life and all your experiences are the study, and everyone else is a lower level NPC?
Just there to give it reality or more.
Give it color and character. So this is a thought you
What
commonly
if
have.
we're all that? What if you're the center of your simulation and I'm an NPC and we're simultaneously, I'm the center
Somewhere
and
else?
you're an NPC and your neighbor's an NPC? Okay,
Brain breaker, right? But that could be the multiverse.
how does this guy
What if-
sleep at night? How does he sleep at night? He doesn't.
Probably on his back. What if every time a decision's made, another bit of code breaks off and that world continues on.
Right, because
Now,
oftentimes
this
our
could-
decisions have, one of three ways they can go.
This could fit in with the conversation we had last week
Which one did we have last week?
with the psychic, or 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
This could fit in with her.
Well, yes, because if there is this simulation happening, there would be record of it, which could be pulled out of the both player and non-player characters, depending on if we could break the code, I guess.
But yeah, we're working towards a goal. Maybe, like when you're playing the video game, we're working to beat the boss. And so we don't beat the boss, life starts over, work starts playing again. And then we keep working to where we keep improving our soul, our code.
Next player. Weird.
Now, there's a computer I want to mention. This is a theoretical computer that was kind of theorized, I think, by the Bradbury guy, the guy who wrote Star Wars.
Okay.
Matryoshka brain.
Matryoshka?
Yeah.
Sounds delicious.
Picture a sun.
Okay.
Okay. Picture that they surround the sun with computer. The sun still gives off the energy which powers the computer, but you have a computer that is millions of miles around. So it's the
Okay.
size of the sun. So the computer is the surface of the sun. So it sits outside of the sun, and however they do that, and the sun gives it the energy, and the computer computes, and then they draw the computing whatever from the computer into
The
whatever.
byproduct of computing.
Yeah.
Whatever's happening.
So that's the size of it, and they're thinking. So okay, the numbers right. So, okay, our brains compute 17 to the 10th power per second of bits.
Ours or yours?
Mine computes 14 to the, but the average human does 17 to the 10th power of bits per second, right?
Okay.
And they say in order to run simulation, you would have to have at least 20 to the 10th power per bits per second. So that's 20 times everything behind it 10 times, right?
Okay.
So we don't have a computer that's bold enough to do that yet. But they're picturing this computer that surrounds the sun. It's going to absorb a lot of energy. So it surrounds the sun for the energy source, and it's that big because it needs to be able to deal with that much. But then how do they cool it?
Well, yeah.
But then again, maybe they build it out of metals. Maybe it's like a liquid metal, like off Terminator 2 computer, where it just molds, and I don't know. But it's wild. So picture, I mean, worst case scenario, we're an evil trick. Best case scenario, I don't know what the best case would be.
Well,
Now, the thing, the great filter would be what would be the deciding factor on a civilization getting that advanced is the great filter. Whether a civilization destroys itself once it reaches the ability to. Like we're sitting in the great filter right now with the atomic.
okay.
You know what so
That's a really hard one to wrap. Because that could go any direction.
It could, but it's the same thing with multi-dimensions, you know, the multi-dimension universe where every decision pops another dimension out and another dimension. So there's, the theory on that is everything that can happen is, has, and will happen simultaneously with everything that, so every decision you make not only is being made, every cell, every atom in the multiverse theory is happening and happening in the exact same different changes. But I think that's stuff that I don't know if we could test that. Maybe it's like time travel, you know. You come back, you touch yourself, and then pop, or you kill your, you kill your grandfather or your father,
And then
then
you
you
just
don't exist,
don't
so then you
exist.
can't invent time travel. So it's one of those conundrums where we can theorize it, smart people can do the math about it. Dumb people like me can sit here and jabber on. I'll bet. We talked about them discovering gorillas. Me talking about this is like the gorilla waving to the human in the early 1800s. You know, I'm just
Yeah.
not on the level that I can,
Communicate
yeah.
or understand.
But I'd like to think about it. I mean, that's a wild thought. If we're, because I mean, the Truman Show, even before that, as a kid, that thought would cross your mind. What if I'm, because you only know yourself,
Right.
truly.
What if I'm not real?
And what if that plays into the sociopaths? Their mindset absorbs that and sees it as it doesn't matter.
What a weird. That
Maybe in another line,
blows your brain.
maybe in another line, a split off back then in the 50s. Ted Bundy is a lawyer, still alive today, never went sociopath, and he does nothing but pro bono for the downtrodden.
Yeah, like what if it's all just experimentation on decision making? Kind of following the decision
Yeah, and
from start to finish.
someone that's good today, who's good? I don't know who's good. Who's a angelic type person?
Grandma.
Yeah, and Grandma Jane. I can't imagine it, but Grandma Jane is like a warlord in a Mad Max scenario. She's riding around she learned how to drive and is a tough lady, like humongous on the roadway. Grandmungus. You don't know who humongous on the roadway is, do you?
I do,
Okay.
unfortunately, yes.
It's a good thing you were raised by the right individuals.
And I can't imagine Grandma being that in another simulation.
She's got a microphone. She's standing on the forklift. Just walk away.
You watched that show way too many times.
Grandma with the 357. Oh, but yeah, so
Too much. Because that could, I mean, I guess understanding the why would help you to reconcile it, but without understanding,
what if we're just entertainment? Just
just
basic.
sheer entertainment would suck. That would be the worst. The worst of all simulation hypotheses is that all of our trials, tribulations,
But
and
if it
everything is for the sheer entertainment of Gleepglorp and his.
If it is, Bigfoot is also a simulation.
Yes.
The aliens coming down and
The old
is
prober.
the simulation.
Sickos. Who's writing this code? Sick individuals. Gleepglorps, whatever they are.
How wild is, I mean, the simulation theory, and it's way beyond my scope of understanding the numbers alone and how they come up with the numbers 17 to the 10 power. I know I learned that somewhere in school. I just don't remember any of it. And I don't even do drugs, and I don't remember any of it.
Wow. So,
It's got to be one of those skills. For remember, math has to be a skill you have to practice and envelop your life in.
yeah, and understanding simulation theory also is one of those. Because you really have to be able to think outside of the box, so to speak. The simulation box.
It's wild. What if the Great Deluge, Noah's flood, was they didn't like the way it was going?
So,
They said it.
hit the button,
Yeah.
kind of like in the Hunger Games, where they kind of direct,
Yeah. Yeah.
they direct
It'd be like the Hunger
the
Games,
decision making by the trials that are put in
the
front of them.
environment,
Yes,
except bigger, broader.
wicked cool.
And to think about it, what if everybody has their own simulation, like you said earlier, and everyone else is an NPC,
In the other person's simulation.
and then there's you know,
It's freaking me out. Okay, simulation hypotheses.
yeah.
I don't know how you'd ever figure out if it's truly happening, because
Uh,
if it is, it's so beyond our capability at this point to understand
the crossing of that veil.
the breadth and depth of it. That
Yeah, that computer, studying this is the first time I heard about that, and I thought that is an interesting thought, to build a computer around its own power source, around the sun, and it's got that much area, that much memory and ability to run, and yeah, that's a, yeah, plug bad boy into your VR headset and see where it could take you.
well, that whole hypothesis intrigues me as much as it pisses me off.
See, I don't, I don't know. If it is, it wouldn't make me mad because that's what it is. You have to face it as, I don't believe that's what it is, but if it
But
is,
what if it is?
then it is what it is.
Just go with it. Go
You
with the
have
flow?
to. What could you do?
I don't know.
What could you turn all Nero and
Start making
jump through the
decisions.
matrix and make the walls breathe and such?
Yeah,
Mr. Anderson.
it's kind of like being mad that you breathe air. You're stuck with it. So you do, you do. You're a fish, you're a fish.
Would
You're
it,
not.
okay, if it is, if that is, would it change your life?
Well,
Would your goals, your
mm,
priorities,
now that's an interesting conversation because if it were found to be all a simulation,
would you still meet up here on Saturday for coffee and chat? I would. I wouldn't change, I wouldn't change anything that I do now.
oh, now that's again mind blown because I don't think I would change anything.
I wouldn't.
I
I
mean,
love my family. I love my friends. I love my cat and my king dog and all that. I enjoy the things I enjoy to do. I'd still continue to do
but it would change. It would
Endeavors I
change
have.
everything. It would change theology. It would change history. It would change.
but
It would change everything. So
if,
although you would continue to behave the way that you
let's say the
behave,
guy who wrote it wrote himself in as God, Allah, whoever, wrote himself in as all of that depending on where you live or whatever, or exposed himself to early enough people so that they had a knowledge of him that they would pass on, or her, with that, so that would still be, but the one thing it would change is the experience of having a soul. Unless a soul is somehow a part of it.
so weird.
So
Perhaps
the
this.
universe, the whole universe, as vast as it is, would be ones and zeros on a memory
But it wouldn't be ones and zeros. That's not complex enough.
chip.
It would be, I don't know, some hieroglyphic. I don't know. That's it. That's thought provoking. I mean, honestly. Because I don't think, first of all, I don't think it would do anything to change anything. I mean, other than your non-player characters may respond differently, and I mean, it would just take you down a different path, which if it's just for entertainment would be every bit as interesting as, and if we are simulation, it's not like you can leave. It's not like the Truman Show where you just find the end, you open up and then what? Step out into space. Um, what if our soul, what if we are simulations that house memories of the last time we played? So we build our skills, and what if that is our soul? Is that we built our skills, so then when we die and we're reborn, we keep our skill set and the things that we've learned from the other times that we
just
played
wipe
the game.
They just wipe
The physical
the
visual
ROM,
manifestation.
but they leave the RAM.
Yeah. So what if a soul is a housing of RAM from all the different past life regression, all the different past lives that we have.
And our psychics somehow see just a little bit into the coding, just enough to where they can see the RAM. Not all the way where they can see the facts, the surface.
What's beyond?
They
Do
just
you think
see,
it's like, if this hypothesis were true, do you think it's just like a guy at a screen sitting in his boxer shorts and a bathrobe, munching on popcorn flavored potato bugs, watching this whole thing? Do you think he's got like a little paddle? Because this is pretty complex. It would have to be
I
like,
think it'd be a VR headset. And
it would have to be player
all-encompassing,
ready.
it'd look like one of those hair dryers in the salon that comes down on the head
It would have to.
and totally covers, and he gets to, and he's in God mode. You know, he can fly, he can walk, he can interact, he can do whatever.
So what if he just like picks on people? He's like, yeah, I'm gonna be a non-player in
Maybe
your life today. I'm bored.
see, like
Let's make shit up.
our Earth isn't really good and evil, right? It's kind of just
There's a ton of gray area.
yeah, it's a gray world that we live on. There is good, there is evil, there is good and evil within the same instance, space, and person. But what? So our guy, lackadaisical. What if you got a benevolent God? You know, a benevolent player. What would the world look like then?
What if?
There's no starvation.
What if that's when wars take place, and then times of peace is when the main player is like,
His mood.
or what if he,
His girlfriend.
what if he expires?
His girlfriend.
And then
breaks
his
up with
brother
him.
steps in.
Yeah. You know, and then you have
What if it's a woman?
a truly evil. I think ours would be a woman.
It's just
It's just-
up, it's down, it's
Yeah.
hungry, it's not hungry,
Yeah.
it's on a diet, we almost famine. I mean,
But what if you had a truly evil one? What would the world look like? I mean, picture the worst dystopia. And we're talking the road. We're talking, you know, just a fact of survival past infancy is a miracle.
Yeah, but-
We wouldn't even be a visible line altogether.
Right.
It's just so, the numbers
it's
are
a
so
tiny
vast.
little, yeah. Interesting subject.
It's a crazy thought.
I'm digging it.
And if you guys want me next time to go deeper into it,
Let us know.
I'll get someone who can.
We'll start looking now. 'Cause,
Remember, I'm just surface area Jared.
it's
I can't, I do not have the vocabulary or the intellect really to throw numbers out and all that stuff most of the time. I can just picture this whole, just the crazy surface notions of it.
Interesting stuff.
Mm.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Like, share, subscribe, review, interact. See, there is two of us, so
Really.
send us a message. We've got Jared at WeirdObscureWorld.com and Betsy at WeirdObscureWorld.com.
Facebook,
Facebook,
Twitter,
Twitter.
Instagram.
You won't see me on Twitter. You'll see me stumble onto Facebook once in a while. But send us your stuff. We want to hear it. We want to explore these ideas, and we want to improve.
It's a weird world we live in, people. We need your help.
Yes. Thanks again.
Have a great week.
Bye.